Ricky Hacking believes that if you are not enjoying what you are doing, then you are doing it wrong. He's used this approach in his career at HP, MyHeritage, and Elevate, taking his companies to new peaks with his creativity, marketing, and branding strategies. He received his MBA from the U of U, which he also enjoyed. He currently is a VIP of Marketing and Operations at Elevate, where they may have successfully been a part of the Incorporated 5000's fastest growing companies, and he has been featured as one of UVBQ's 40 Under 40, among many other marketing awards. To see Ricky at his happiest, you only need to look for his family. His wife, Amy, is the beauty and brains of his operation. Ricky and his 6-year-old son are always trying to find the next big adventure, while he and his sweet 3-year-old love to read a good book. You can find Ricky either at the golf course or playing tennis, but if you're really lucky to see him spearfishing at one of the local reservoirs. So this is a really awesome bio that Ricky sent to us earlier today. So he's going to give us a speech on positive leadership. So let's give him a round of applause. Thank you.
All right. Well, thank you so much. Thank you for that warm intro that I wrote. I think you nailed it. Captured everything about me. Very good. Well, you guys, I'm super excited to be here and talk with you today. Originally, when I was contacted to come and speak with you guys today, they just gave me a very broad subject, the subject of leadership. And how many books do you think in Amazon, if you search the word leadership, how many books do you think come up? You guys are way overshot. You guys are real leaders. It's 60,000. Over 60,000 books. I heard millions. I thought you guys would be like 10,000, something like that. You guys are way overshot. I'm proud of you. But there's over 60,000. So that is just books that I've written that are on Amazon. Like you're saying, there's so many books and ideas and thoughts and theories on leadership that we could spend just hours just listing the different styles and techniques. But for myself, what I wanted to talk on and touch on is the leadership style of positive leadership. Now, positive leadership will go... Part of positive leadership is, well, we'll dive really deep into that. But first I wanted to get to know you guys, and I really appreciate everyone not sitting up here in the middle, because that makes it a lot less personal. And I would have done the same thing. I remember doing the same thing. Sit on the sides, in the back, he won't talk to me. What now? You guys are all here. Are you guys here for course credit? Is that one of the things you're here? I want to know about you a little bit. Course credit. What type of majors are in here? Elementary ed? Okay. Aviation, this is perfect for you. Say again? Graphic design, very good. That'll be great. Social work, very good. Communications, perfect. Aviation again, same guy. Slow learner. He'll get there, he'll get there. So how many of you want to end up running your own business? How many of you want to end up working for someone? Which both are great. Okay, so today what I'm going to talk about, you're kind of, okay, elementary ed, you so want to work for someone. You kind of have to on that one. But the topics and things that we're going to talk about today, this will apply in almost all across the board. I will be focusing a little bit more on my experience, which has been more in the business world and going through that type of experience. So, very good. I'm really excited to be here. I remember going to these things when I was when I was going to school. It was awesome. I loved hearing about the lectures and the experiences, and almost the more or less real life application of what you guys are learning here in school being applied to everyday life. So let's get to know me. This is my favorite subject. First and foremost, born 1979. I still feel very young. 1982, I learned to ride a bike. Big achievement. 2nd grade, told my worst joke ever. Girl was sitting in the shade, and I asked her if she was getting a shade tan. She said, "What?" I got embarrassed, and I ran away. Voted 2nd funniest in my family. That was a big award. Really appreciated that one. Puberty, we don't need to cover that. I was Mr. USU 2003. It's kind of like a mantle, like president. It just stays with me. So I'm still Mr. USU, but 2003. I saw that you guys have a Mr. UVU. Very good, very good. So if that guy, whoever wants to try that, needs some consulting, I can help him out. I know all the tricks. While I was in school, I started an improv troupe called Do You Want Fries With That? So I did this as an opportunity. Someone came to me wanting to have some sort of improv troupe through the school. I then decided to start my own troupe, and they hired us. And from there, we then continued to go on. I spent many years doing stand-up comedy. I worked my way through college. Part of one job was doing stand-up comedy through college. I eventually got my first adult job, and that was very, very interesting. I then married my boss, which she hates that joke. During that time period, I was headlining comedy clubs like Wise Guys and other universities and things like that throughout the state. I eventually got my MBA from the U of U. I started at Elevate, and we'll talk quite a bit about Elevate here today. A lot of the things that I will talk about is stuff that we've tried to apply to Elevate and then through there. So we'll talk more about that. My son was born. His name is Wesley. We're big fans of Princess Bride. He's phenomenal. I've never thought I would know more about dinosaurs than I do now. My daughter was then recently born. She's 3 years old. She's amazing. We got Elevate to be a part of the Inc. 5000 fastest growing companies in the nation. Last year I was recognized as one of the 40 under 40 through the UVBQ. And I'm still married. Yeah, that's what I thought too. Thank you, thank you, thank you. No, you're right. Very impressive. My body is terrible. So, I'm all personality, guys. There's nothing to look at. Elevate Promo Print and Design. This is where I currently work. This is part of what we do at Elevate Promo Print and Design. We're a branding company. Companies come to us with their branding needs, and we help create campaigns and imagery that will get them the return on their brand that they want. So we do a lot of consulting. People will come to us and say, hey, I need my logo on pens. Our first question is why? What are you really trying to accomplish? Do you want leads? Do you want revenue from that? And then we try to find the right campaign to get them there. So Elevate, we're up at Thanksgiving Point at Lehigh. We love it. We're in branding. We get to work with a ton of different companies. We get to work with a lot of the leaders throughout the community and the state and then nationwide as well. So it's really a fantastic opportunity for me because I get to rub elbows with CEOs, marketing managers, VP of marketing, people like that really dive in, and I get to take ideas from them as we go and move forward. So it's a lot of fun to do that. So for me, the best is yet to come. I always like to look forward to the future and see what else is coming. But positive leadership, let's dive into positive leadership and what it is and what we're trying to do. So most research organizations and like psychologists, research agencies, things like that, even a lot of philosophies on leadership focus on the negative, on things not to do, things to overcome that way. But with this, what I want to do is focus on the positive leadership, to build workplaces with thriving people that create extraordinary outcomes. So again, that's to build workplaces with thriving people that create extraordinary outcomes. Not just outcomes, not basic outcomes, but extraordinary. And there's reasons. So Sean Aker, in a TED Talk, The Happy Secret to Better Work, found that 25% job successes are predicted by IQ. So being successful at your job is only predicated on IQ 25% of the time. 75% of the job successes are predicted by your optimism levels, your social input, and your ability to see stress as a challenge instead of a threat. So there's power behind positivity. So most companies follow a formula for success, which is, if I work harder, I'll be more successful, and I'm more successful, then I'll be happy. So that's the formula currently. Everyone's always looking on the horizon for when you're going to be successful and happy. Same with school. You get good grades. Oh, I got to get better grades. That's when you're going to be happy, is when you get the better grades. Or after college, when I get a good job, that's when I'm going to be really happy and positive. That's the reward. And that's the traditional way of doing it. Your brain at a positive level is 31% more productive than your brain at a negative, neutral, or stressed level. 31%. We're talking that movie Powder right now. That type of level. So what this means is that we need to reverse the formula. If we can find a way of becoming positive in the present, our brains will work even more successfully as we're able to work harder, faster, and more intelligently. 31% more productive. So So we need to flip the formula. During the process of us achieving our goals and getting to where we want to go, we need to be positive then. That will help drive our success. We don't get, waiting to be successful to then be happy is the wrong formula to have. Be happy in the journey, be positive in the journey. You will get to your success that much faster. You're 31% more productive. If I could do anything 31% better or more productive, I would be, it's incredible when you can apply this. So the things we're going to talk on today is positive communication, positive relationships, positive climate, positive meaning, positive emotions, multiplier versus diminishers, know thyself. I threw that one in to sound kind of classy. So there is not a test, guys. This sounds like a lot of stuff. Some of this we're going to dive into. Some of it we're just going to touch briefly. Now, the biggest thing for me is I don't want to just sit up here and lecture. If you have a question or a comment or a thought, please raise your hand or just yell it out. Let's have a little bit of a dialogue if you have any questions. I know some people this may not be as of interest to them, but that's fine. If you have an idea, I'd love to hear it. Or even a counterpoint, I would love to hear it. So these are all the 5 levels. So the positive communication, relationships, climate, meaning, and emotions, we'll first focus on those 5. The one thing to remember with those is they overlap so much that I'm going to talk about communication, but a lot of what we're going to be talking about in communication overlaps into relationships and vice versa. It's just all across the board. They overlap quite a bit. So Marcel Losada's study, the single most important factor in predicting success, which was 4 times more powerful in predicting success than any other factor, was the ratio of positive comments to negative comments. So from a standpoint of leadership using positivity, what do you think that ratio is of positive comments to negative comments? 3 to 1? 5 to 1? She wins. The ratio is 5 to 1. So you can predict the success of someone by your positive comments are 5 to 1. So for every 1 negative comment, you say 5 positive. There's also been a study that an example of this is a researcher could predict within 15-minute conversation whether a married couple was going to continue to be married in 10 years based on this ratio, which is pretty powerful. I mean, you should just get interviewed before you get married. How many people are married here? Very good, very good. The rest of you struggle. It's okay, you'll get there. You guys, it's a challenge, uphill battle. You'll get there. That's 1 negative. Now I have to come up with 5 positive for you. So it's just a powerful thing. The ratio of positive to negative is you got to manage that and balance that. So these are some of the quotes about positive communication that I wanted to talk about. This is Joseph Tarantino, President and CEO of Protiviti. I know that our people value our culture of transparent communication and access to our leadership team. It's one of the things that regularly praised in our employee feedback surveys. So there's a few things in this what stands out to you guys in this quote? Anything stand out as it pertains?
I'd say the access to the leadership team, that's a unique work environment. Some companies will say that's the case, but if they're getting praised by the employees on the feedback, then it's real access, not just, my door is open, but don't try coming in and you'll be,
Right, you'll be in. And there are a lot of companies that are like that, where it's just them giving word of saying, I'm open, but never come in. Absolutely. That is huge of positive communication, because the whole point of is trying to create that environment where they can have communication.
I like that part where it says that the culture of transparent communication. Even companies like Google, one of the things they value most is just that culture that they have inside of their company, where even the CEO at the very top, he's just as accessible as your next door neighbor in the cubicle or whatever. They feel like no one is more or less than any other throughout the company. And when it says transparent, I thought it was cool because they even let all of their meetings that they have in the executive boardroom, they're transmitted throughout the entire company. And they say that something like that makes it so that each of the employees feels a sense of ownership of everything that's discussed, and a sense of commitment, and a sense of trust. And it empowers them and motivates them to put even more, or to invest even more of themselves into the company, because they're investing so much into them. And I just love that.
Absolutely.
Culture of transparent communication like that. I love that.
There's nothing worse than being in a room, being the third person in the room, and having the other two start to whisper. You know what I mean? Nothing makes you feel more uncomfortable or assume, oh, are they talking about me? And that's the same thing within companies, is having that culture of transparency is huge, because then people buy in. They are able to buy into what you're trying to do. They understand more. And if you have that two-way communication, then they can give input and feedback, and we'll keep going. There's more. So what's the bottom one? By listening, understanding, and then acting on what it has heard from the workforce, the leader builds trust and support. What stands out on this one for you guys?
I like that it points out not just by listening, but understanding, because listening and truly understanding what somebody's saying are two different things. You can listen, but to really understand and process before you then act. I like that it included that.
Absolutely. That's really important. Listening is is the second part of communication. So often we are all so good at just talking and getting our point out there. The other aspect is listening and then understanding. Having follow-up questions. As you guys are leaders and leading people, make sure you're asking follow-up questions, because that does show that you're listening, that you're involved, you're invested in what they're trying to say. And then a huge part is then acting on what is heard from the workforce. So often you'll be in companies and they'll say, have a voice. And you'll have a voice and you'll share it. But nothing's ever done. So if it is a good actionable idea, not every idea is great from the workforce or doable based to funds. And if you're a small startup company, you can't afford to do every idea. But if it is a good one, act on it. Make sure you're able to move forward. Invest time in regularly talking with your people about your strategy. Make it a two-way conversation and creating joint ownership. You really have to invest in your people and as you're leading them. As a leader, it doesn't matter what industry you go into, as you have anyone under you, making time to communicate, it's part of your job. You have to make that time. So that way when you say my door is always open, you have that time. You can say if someone comes and you're involved in something, come back in 10, 15 minutes or 30 minutes, let's talk then. You can schedule that out. But as you prove that over time, they then begin to trust you. They trust that when you say in 30 minutes we can talk. And then when you're listening and you're able to communicate and you're acting on those things, you have then created an environment of trust that allows for positive leadership to then improve that productivity, because they know you're going to hear and understand what you're saying. Seth Godin, Tribes, amazing book. A tribe is a group of people connected to one another, connected to a leader and connected to an idea. For millions of years, human beings have been part of one tribe or another. A group needs only two things to be a tribe: a shared interest and a way to communicate. It was really interesting your comments about Google, because there are so many platforms now where you can communicate throughout an organization. It doesn't matter how big an organization is, you can still communicate and be heard and be felt and feel like you're being listened to. All the way down to a startup of 1 to 2 people. This is a very important aspect, communication. Everybody needs to be heard. And as a leader, using positive communication, you can have people follow you. All right. So one thing I want to talk about real quick is it doesn't matter what you do, you're always communicating something. You're constantly communicating throughout the day, whether you want to or not. And as part of that, I'm in the branding world. We work with brands. So of course I'm going to do some branding activities. Okay, we're going to go through. Looking at these are just parts of a logo. Can you tell what logo they are? The top, is this a laser? Oh, what's that one? Very good. What's the next one? Nike. What was the other one? Who said what? What's the next one? UPS. Some of these might be a little older, some are newer. What's the next one? This is a tricky one. Kellogg? No. Which one? Chick-fil-A? Nope. Colgate? Nope. That is some nasty looking toothpaste. Pringles? No. Very close. Nestle. Nestle. I believe that's an older logo, actually, so I tricked you guys. What's the top right one? Very good. Slurpees for everybody. What's this one? Any guesses? Very good. Dodge. Yeah, very good. The next one I assume you all know. Very good. It gives you wings. Coca-Cola, that's easy. Good job. Very good. You summer salespeople nailed it. Walmart, you guys all go there, don't lie. Visa. A bunch of hicks in here, I love it. All right. What's this one? Okay, yeah, Sons of Anarchy, you guys are right. Very good. What's this one? You guys, that was your stumper. Good job, ladies. You guys did it. All the guys were like, I don't know who Louis is. All right, Louis, and this one, you should all know. Very good. Daffy Duck. I thought I was going to get someone. Dell, good job. Xerox. Xerox. So, you guys, the whole point of this, of going through these logos, you didn't see the whole logo, right? You just saw a portion of it. And even that small portion, you were able to decide exactly what the true message was, what the full logo was. And with every logo in here, I'm sure for everyone, one logo in particular or another elicits some sort of emotional response or something along those lines. Like you may hate Dodge, you may be a total Ford guy or a Toyota truck guy, and you hate Dodge. That may elicit that emotion. That is a part of communication. And that's the same thing with you guys as leaders as you continue to move forward in your careers. For myself, I knew that typically with these speaking lecture series, the MasterMind, most people come very dressed up, correct? They usually have shirt and tie, and here I come dressed more like I should be attending the class. Very good, very good. I was 8 years old when I first fit into this. No. This is what my company does. We do branding like this. So this is one of my company shirts. And I wore this in the sense of me dressed like this. What does that communicate to you guys? And nothing's wrong. Chill dude. I'm glad it wasn't, you weren't yelling out like, you're a douche. Because you're not wrong. You wouldn't be wrong. But yeah, that's the whole point is you're always communicating. And that's why even with me dressed like this, I dressed like this on purpose because I didn't want to come dressed up. I wanted to be a little bit more relatable. If I was going to talk with a room full of marketing people, I wouldn't come in a shirt and tie. I would come in a much more casual, but stylish, I guess, dress, which my wife would have to pick out for me. And that being said, my wife wanted me to tell you that she did not condone this. She was very much against it. So that's the whole point. The point of this is communication, positive leadership, positive communication. What you convey and put out there, even when you're not trying to put something out there, your body language, even though you may say something, how you say it to someone matters. You go around and you talk to people in your company or that you work with, be mindful of what you're communicating and make sure that you're using the correct channels to communicate. Because you can say something, a great example is I work with a guy and he'll send a text to someone and he'll say, I need to talk to you, come to my office. And I've seen him do this a dozen times, and every time one of his employees gets this text, they hang their head. They feel nervous. They're oh man, what did I do? They start racking their brain about a mistake or something that they've done. And the whole time, for my coworker, he just has something to praise him on, or just has a question like, oh, where did you put this? Oh, thanks. But for them, there was such a negative reaction to that. And part of that is because my coworker was using the wrong, can you say it again? Medium, thank you. The wrong medium to communicate what he was trying to get across. So make sure you're being mindful of that. So as a leader, part of positive communication is you need to be open, be transparent. The worst thing you can do is have secrets. Now, not everything in a company can you tell everyone, but being open, being transparent, taking the time to communicate is huge. I make it a point, and sometimes my employees dislike it, but I still make a point of it. Every day, I go around to each one of the employees I work with, and I ask them how their night was or how the weekend was. And I do this on purpose just from the sense of I want them to know that I am aware of them, that that I value them, and that I am invested in them personally and professionally. And I care about them as people. And it creates, and we'll talk more about positive relationships, but it adds to that positive relationship that we have. Consult and then act. Be willing to act. And be mindful that you're always communicating, no matter what. No matter what you think you're not trying to communicate, it's there. Just look at poker players. If you want to see subtle communication, watch some Texas Hold'em. All right, so positive relationships. Who are you going to have on your team? Who are you going to surround yourself in your company, as you're a pilot, as your coworkers? Who do you have as subordinates underneath you? Some of the first things, some tips I have for you with regards to who you're going to bring on: hire slow and fire fast. It sounds brutal, but it's absolutely true. If you know someone, take the time to make sure someone's right for the job. And then when you find out that they're really not right for that job, let them go. It's not worth dragging out. You'll have more pain and headache from trying to drag that out. We've also learned that don't be afraid to hire. If you're in a position and you're trying to do too many things, especially if you're in a small startup, for those that are trying to start their own company, if you're trying to do your own thing and you're trying to do it all, you're going to eventually fail. You've got to bring on people around you that are talented. Now, as part of that, of people that you bring on, you've got to make sure they're the right fit. Now, I forgot to put fit. Are they a cultural fit? That's just, you got to add fit in there, else it doesn't make sense. Are they a cultural fit? You got to make sure and this is huge for us at Elevate, being a cultural fit. If someone comes in and they're the brightest individual in the world, or someone that comes in that's just smart and they're a cultural fit, we go culture fit every time. Because we can accomplish more as a team than any one individual. And that's the same thing. As a cultural fit, you want them to plug in, be able to get along and interact with your people. Now, this doesn't mean that you're going to be best friends with them, but they have to fit the culture. And a good way to do this is an airport test. Imagine you're sitting at the airport with this person, and your plane is delayed 3 hours. Are you going to enjoy or even like that time period that you're sitting there with that person that you're about to hire? Now, you don't have to get along. I like it when they even have counterpoints or different ideas than me, or come from a different lifestyle. I'm not looking for someone that's just exactly like me. I don't want a mirror image. I want that conflict, but is it a good culture fit? Are they a good person that can communicate that way? So doing that and trying to find out is a big way to help. Will they challenge your ideas? You don't want that mirrored image. You want someone that can come and say, okay, why are we doing this? I have another idea that might enhance that. How do they feel rewarded? You've got to learn, when you put someone on your team, do they like direct praise? How do they like to be praised? So my wife, who's she's a brilliant businesswoman. She hates when people pull her up in front of a large group and say, Amy did amazing on this. We want to give her some recognition. That's the worst thing you can do for her to motivate her to want to achieve more. By focusing more on maybe a little thing on the side and then mentioning her to that group but not having to bring her up is huge. Figuring out how they want to be rewarded. Who are they as a person, not an employee? Don't ever get stuck on just someone as a robot in your company. Find out who they are. In every interview I do, I always try to find out what they like to do for fun. I want to know what they're doing when they're not at work. What do they enjoy? Because that helps me then with rewarding, with praising, finding activities that we as a company can go do together. And it helps understand that we can have diversity, because I want a team on my marketing team. I want 5 different people that are in different areas of interest. So that way they know that audience better than I do. So we can grow that way. Have a unique question. Find out within your own company, with the culture you're trying to create and the relationships that you have there. Make sure you have a unique question that is just for your company. For us, we always ask, how easily offended are you? We like to joke. We like to laugh. We want to make sure no one coming in is going to be super sensitive. I've never had one person say, I'm pretty easily offended. I've never had someone say that. I've had people hesitate, and have to think about it, and that tells me, okay, this person is probably easily offended, and I need to be mindful of that. And I've hired some of them still, even the ones that have hesitated, but I've been much more mindful, okay, we got to be aware of that. Mirror and compliment, we've already talked about that. So ways to have positive relationship. Great teams and organizations succeed primarily when they are willing to contribute more than they take away. The biggest thing with having good relationships with people is to serve. I know it sounds really basic and it's kind of churchy almost, but to serve others, it really works. Even as when you want to have that relationship with someone and have that positive relationship as a leader, serve them. They did a study of widows 6 months after their spouse has passed. They found that the people that were of service to others, the widows that were of service to others, were emotionally and mentally in a much better state than those that were still just mourning the death of their loved one. The levels of depression, I think it was like 75% greater amongst those that weren't serving, that weren't put to work in serving. As part of to keep that positive leadership and that energy going and creating that environment of trust and creativity, have an energy mole. You know who your people are on your team and who you work with and even when you have a project, you have someone that's very high energetic, it's contagious. They're friends with everybody, they're out there, they're doing that. Put them to work, give them the freedom and empower them to do the things that they want. At our company, we have one, her name is Stacy. So Stacy is our energy mole. She's friends with everybody in the company. She has done all these are all pranks that she has done internally within our office. I was gone for a week and she had cleared out my office and had miniature goats in my office, which they had then pooped all over my walls. Chad had left, and with this prank, when he had left and he'd come back, we had taken out his whole file drawer and made it into an aquarium. So he had fish all throughout it. The French Bulldog, Steve Anderson, the owner of the founder of Elevate, he and I were on a business trip, and they had made a KSL ad for a French Bulldog under his name with his wife, Ricky, who was me, and they put our phone number on there. So we were getting calls all the way till 3, 4 in the morning for this $200 French Bulldog, which the picture was the cutest little bulldog. But all of these, for us, and someone misspelled balloons, it wasn't me. All of these are things that we love. We love the fact that she's out there doing this because when she does these things, she gets the whole office, our whole team involved, and they get behind this, and there's an energy and a camaraderie that comes from this. And we've been doing this for over 8 years now, and throughout those years, we still look back. We love these things. These are the things that really have driven a lot of happiness for all of us as a team when we get behind it. Another thing with positive relationships, focus on the strengths of others. You want to being positive is, you focus on those positive strengths. You don't want to, like the 5-to-1 ratio, keep that in mind as you're doing this stuff. Celebrate the small victories. You don't have to hit the major milestone in order to celebrate. It's kind of like how they're doing with elementary now. Every grade my son will graduate from, he has to go walk and get a diploma after first grade, second grade, third grade. Celebrating those small milestones make it so that way the longer goal is that much more exciting. Create positive imagery. Don't do that is a lot less helpful than try this. It's just like when you tell someone, don't think of a white giraffe. Instantly, you start to think of a white giraffe. So instead of using that negative connotation of don't do that, focus on what if we tried this? We could get a different outcome. So positive climate. This is often referred to as culture. So positive climate is really a lot of like culture. We could spend 4 or 5 hours talking about culture, how to develop it, how to increase it, and how important it is. There's a lot of strategy behind creating a culture within a company and within any organization. It deals a lot with your values and things like that. But one of the things you need to have is compassion, forgiveness, and gratitude. These will all contribute to a culture that will allow for positive environment with creativity and learning that will help increase the productivity of everyone. So with compassion, you need to know your people. In order to have compassion for them, you got to understand them. You got to know who they are, understand their trials, and be able to sympathize with them. Anytime you have, now we'll talk a little bit more about what positive leadership isn't, but negative things happen. They happen all the time. And when that does happen, you got to take it head on. You can't try to step around it and just hope it goes away. You got to spearhead it. You need to be able to create that trust. All the things we're talking about help create that trust, that positive relationship, and then you have to have empathy. So as part of forgiveness, when something negative does happen, or there is something where it's not a fun conversation, I always use the Band-Aid technique. It is going to get uncomfortable, but it is completely worth it. I tell my people all the time, I would much rather have a really hard conversation for 15 minutes up front and get over it within a half an hour than let it sit and fester forever. And this is a great thing even within relationships as you're married and things like that. Have that hard conversation, understanding that you're both able to communicate and you're trying to understand the person from their point of view. You can get through these things. And it does get uncomfortable. But as a leader, as you have people on your team, you've got to have that compassion and forgiveness for them and be able, when you forgive, let it go. Don't hold on to it. Don't hold it against them the next day, because they're human just like you and they make mistakes. Everyone wants to be judged based on their motives and what they intend. You want to be judged on your intentions. Everyone wants to be judged on their intentions, but everyone judges on what they do. And it's the same thing as a leader. Try to find out what their intentions. You have to hold them responsible for what they do, but understand them and be able to forgive and forget. So how to handle forgiveness? As something traumatic or negative really does happen, acknowledge the trauma, harm, or injustice that occurred. Associate the outcomes with a higher positive purpose. Maintain high standards. I assume you guys can all read. As you go through these things, I have had the unfortunate experience of having to deal with hard things, of having to let people go for drinking on the job, things like that, et cetera. They're very hard. It's a hard conversation to say, hey, you missed our event. Where were you? Finding out they were drunk in the parking lot, just throwing up instead of doing their job. That's a hard conversation to have. But having hard conversations doesn't mean you can't be positive. You can acknowledge that. Remember that there is a higher purpose, what the meaning behind it all is, and understanding that they are human. So we've got to make sure we keep that in context. Gratitude. Make sure you're always giving thanks, giving praise, making sure that you recognize. Not fluff. I'm not saying, oh, you're so wonderful all the time. That's not what we're talking about. Understand your employees' love language. Recognize them and give them praise in the right way that will resonate with them. It's not always going to be for you. I have one of our partners, Chad. He's an amazing sales guy. He loves getting recognition. So he owned his own company for 11 years, and he worked by himself. And when he would hit his own milestones, he would make himself his own trophy, because he understood that was his love language. And I applaud him for that. I think that's amazing. But even more important than the big recognition and gratitude is the little ones. Taking the time to send thank you notes. It sounds silly. Take time, small tokens. It's interesting because when servers simply write thank you on a receipt, which we've all seen them do, they've shown that gets them 11% more tips just from writing thank you on the receipt. So the little things, Chad, that same person, Chad, he's awesome at this. He will every night, he will take time, and then he will send a text to one of our employees, not every night, once a week typically. Send a text to one person randomly saying, hey, I noticed you did this week. That was awesome. I really appreciate you. I hope everything's going well. He takes that time. And that's the thing. Being a positive leader, being a leader, it takes effort. It takes practice, doing these little things. Positive meaning. Positive meaning refers to the pursuit of something larger than oneself, something that leaves a legacy, and something that is worthy of the extra mile effort. So what does your company, what's the meaning of for your company? What's going to drive your employees or the people in your organization to want to do more? At HP, I was I was one of the marketing managers at HP, and they created a Bluebird team where this team was top performers from every department within our company. So we had engineers, computer programmers, we had sales guys, we had customer service, we had marketing, we had project management. We had the top people performing in that team. And we were tasked with, by the CEO, he said, you have a very small budget, but you guys as a group need to find additional revenue. Just figure out where we can drive additional revenue, not necessarily through marketing campaigns or whatever that way. Instead of doing that, we're going to do this program. And that gave us a ton of meaning. That made it. So we had our full-time jobs already, and then we had additional work on being part of this committee, and it drove us. We loved it. We ended up in 6 months driving over $600,000 in additional revenue by doing this, by coming up with new campaigns. We started the Hugs Patrol, which I deemly named because it's HP. So I thought it was really creative, I guess. Not so creative. But that's where it is. By having that positive meaning, being able to figure out for yourself what is the meaning, the values, and the culture that you're going to have within your company. So with Elevate, our meaning is serve others. So that became our motto, is wake up, brand the world, serve others, repeat. So instead of just being order takers, when people call in, we are all about consulting, focusing on their branding, finding out what will best serve them. We often have it where they're willing to come in and spend $2,000 with us, and we say, listen, you only need to spend $800 in order to get to where you're wanting. Let's not do that. Let's do this program that will get you the results you want. So positive emotions. We're running out of time pretty quick here, so I'll go pretty quick. Positive emotions, there are a ton. By inducing this positive leadership, you elicit a positive emotions throughout everybody in your organization. There's so many positive, physical health benefits to this. And it helps increase, right here, it helps increase creativity, interpersonal trust in relationships, productivity, mindfulness. You just get so many benefits to having positive emotion. So, what positive leadership isn't? It isn't being a clown coming in just rah, rah, rah all the time. If you're an introvert or an extrovert, I personally am a bit of an extrovert. I love engaging with people. I love talking with people. That's not for everybody. My wife is an introvert. She doesn't enjoy that. But as an introvert or someone that is maybe more quiet or more serious, you can also induce and be a positive leader. It's not the rah, 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 because you have hard conversations, but you can be positive. Doing the things that we've talked about already, you can be very positive. What it isn't is you don't have to have an overly optimistic view of the world, but you don't have to put up with poor performance. If they're just smiling and they're happy, that doesn't mean the company's going well. You can expect performance levels being there. You don't have to be happy all the time, don't have to be Care Bears. There's a video on Key and Peele. Have you guys seen, you know what I'm talking about? The one where they're chained up and the psycho clown. They're chained up and they're essentially saying, this isn't so bad. This is great. Actually, I didn't need my right arm. Watch it. It's exactly what positive leadership is not. It's not trying to put icing on a pile of poop and call it a cake. You got to do it right. That's an awesome analogy. I'm putting that on the next slide. So let's be real. Only having sunshine will create a desert. I love this. Life is real. Bad things happen, negative things happen, but only having sunshine will create a desert. Okay, question. How do some leaders manage to make everyone around them smarter, yet other leaders seem to drain intelligence and capability out of people? How is that possible? This is a book by Liz Wiseman called Multipliers. Has anyone read this book? I will tell you this. I thought I was a really good manager and a leader. And then I read this book, and I learned so much about myself and the things that I was doing. We'll go over this stuff quickly. After meeting William Gladstone, you left feeling he was the smartest person in the world. But after meeting his rival, Benjamin Disraeli, you left feeling you were the smartest person in the world. Both brilliant men. You meet one, you know he's the smartest. You meet another, you feel like you're the smartest. There's a subtle difference, and it's powerful. So multipliers amplify or multiply the intelligence of people around them. They find that multipliers get 2 times the output of people than a diminisher. A diminisher will get 50% out of someone of what they are capable of doing. That's significant. A multiplier multiplies and gets 2 times the amount, whereas a diminisher doesn't. They drain. It's all about them looking good, the diminishers. So multipliers, there's 5 categories of multipliers. The talent magnets who attract and optimize talent, liberators who create intensity that requires best thinking, coaches who extend challenges, debaters, debate makers who debate after deciding, and investors who instill ownership and accountability. These are all the tendencies of the multipliers, and I recommend you guys doing these, reading about these more in that book. Diminishers, they are empire builders who hoard and underuse talent, tyrants who create anxiety and suppress thinking, know-it-alls who tell people what to do, decision makers who make isolated decisions, and micromanagers who take control over everything. They get half of what people are capable of. That's incredible. You go work for them, you hate it. This is the type of job where you go in and they take all the credit, they take everything. So if you want to lead like a multiplier and have positive leadership, shift from answers to questions, dispense your ideas in small doses, expect complete work. So the one thing, as I read this, and I wanted to focus more on this than the other, you can accidentally be a diminisher. Even though you're trying to do what you think is best and you're trying to do what is right, you can accidentally be diminishing the people around you. And this is where I found myself at one point, was I was diminishing the people I was trying to lead. The idea guy, they have so many ideas. Their ideas are to stimulate ideas in others. Outcome, they overwhelm others or shut down or spend their time chasing the idea. They have so many ideas, they come in one week and they say, let's go this direction. The next week they're saying, no, let's go after this direction. You're jumping from the next best idea all the time. It's really hard to do that, and it's overwhelming. You shut down. Always on, they're so high energy, it's overwhelming to people. Even though they think their energy is being contagious. It's not contagious, it's just, it's drowning. Rescuer, they spend all their time trying to protect, and this is what I found myself doing with some of my employees, is I was trying to take on and do so much to protect them and allow them to do their role that they weren't feeling challenged, they weren't feeling motivated. And so once I realized this, after figuring this out about myself, I stepped back, and it was incredible to see what they were able to do. And one of the best things we've done at Elevate is bring in our mid-level management and have them and the rest of our team be part of our decision-making on what's the best process, what's the right way to do these orders, things like that. That's really been a huge success for us. The pace setter, they go so fast and so hard that they don't allow other people to keep up, and it becomes a real bottleneck because they try to do everything. Rapid responder, it gets people lackadaisical. He thinks he's inspiring them, but really what he or she are doing is just making it so that people think, well, why would I answer? He or she is just going to do it anyway. The optimist, they create they're always optimistic. They don't recognize the real struggle. If you can recognize that, hey, there is a struggle here, it's tough, that goes a long way for your people. To keep people safe from political forces in the organization, they don't learn to defend for themselves. You got to let them kind of figure out how to, especially in the larger organizations, this holds very true. The strategist. This one was kind of interesting, to create compelling reason to move beyond the status quo, which is typically a really good thing. But what the strategist wouldn't do is they wouldn't allow people would spend more time second guessing their boss and trying to say, okay, is this really the right move? Is this it? Because he wouldn't allow them to be part of that process of making the strategy, being involved in the course correcting. As you involve them, then people will get behind it more. Perfectionists, we've all dealt with someone like that. It's hard, they're doing a great job, but when people have something, they feel criticized, they feel disheartened. So to become a multiplier, focus on the disciplines with your greatest strengths and biggest weaknesses. Develop your thinking around underlying assumptions that differentiate multipliers from diminishers. So if you really want to become a multiplier and really focus on one thing, it's behavior. Ask insightful and interesting questions that make people think. More often than not, as a leader, you think you're out in front of them and you're trying to say, here's how you do it. And you're inspiring them that way. That's not the correct way to do it. The best way is to even hold back your own ideas and just ask strategic questions to see what they think and kind of guide them down a path. And if they go some direction where you know that's not correct, you can push back on that. But if you can ask the questions and really get that out of them, then they buy into it. They're happier because they feel like it's more their idea. They have an investment in it. They're going to work harder and more passionately towards the end goal by doing that. So know yourself. For sake of time, I'll just briefly talk on this. In order to be a great leader and have positive leadership, you've got to understand yourself. You got to know who you are, what your weaknesses are, and even more what your strengths are. By knowing your strengths and what motivates you, how you re-energize, this is what really will set you apart, because the better understanding you have of yourself, the greater you can achieve and lead and guide and grow people. For us, we love having people take a personality test when they first come on and get hired. We want to understand who they are, how they work, what really works with them. Other things you can do if you want is take a strength finders test. There's a lot of leadership guidance that talk about making sure that you always focus on your strengths. It's a huge thing. Find your greatest weakness and then find your greatest strengths. Focus on your greatest strengths, work on that, and work on one weakness. And make that weakness. Because if you focus on all your weaknesses, all you're doing is bringing the lower half up to become an average individual. If you only focus on your weaknesses. Keep growing your strengths so you become exceptional. So I'm a campaigner. We could look at that. But this is who we have on our team right now. It was a good joke, I agree. So, creating lasting positive change. This is something you can do in order, if you struggle personally with positivity, this is something you can do. 3 gratitudes. Name 3 things that you're grateful for. Start journaling, and by that I mean write down the most meaningful experience you've had in the last 24 hours. Exercise at least 10 minutes a day. Meditate for 2 minutes a day, just watching your breath go in and out. And then random acts of kindness. By doing this for 21 days, it will become habitual, and you will then be able to be a more positive person. It will then allow you to then have that positive leadership and focus on positive communication, relationship, climate, meaning. So, questions. I have a few minutes for questions. It's very brief. Any questions, you can ask me personal or on this stuff. I agree.
I know it's completely unrelated, but do you still do comedy?
I do occasionally. It's rare. I typically will host people's holiday parties and things like that. I need to get back into it. I love doing stand-up is a blast, and it's actually been a huge asset in my career because doing stand-up has allowed me to have a creative facet that I come and look at things from a different perspective. Whereas because when you're writing comedy and you're writing jokes, a typical experience that someone would have, you look at it from a different angle. And so you write down that thought. So good question. Yeah.
I have a question about the leadership. How you're talking about guy comes in, thinks he's a smart person in the room, leaves versus
Right.
he's a smart person in the room. Would you want a combination if you were a leader? Like, would you want someone to be inspired and want to go under you and lead, but also when you lead in a way that makes him feel smarter?
You would want somewhat of a combination, but here's the real question is, what is the ultimate objective? Like, what are you wanting to accomplish? If you want to be perceived as the smartest, then you would want that. But if you want the objective to be, I want my company to hit $2 million this year or something like that, what's going to get you there? Them walking away thinking you're smart, or them walking away, I feel so smart, I know we can do this, and then they work twice as hard to get there. That's the real question. It comes down to what you want your ultimate goal to be. And if the performance of the company and things like that, or the organization, or the objective or the goal, it's a means of getting to that goal. If you want the goal to be, I want to be the smartest, then that's where the combo would come in. Very good question. Any other questions? Yeah.
So, you said you did comedy, so what brought you to branding and business work and stuff?
I had kids. No, really, I was doing stand-up comedy, and I loved doing stand-up. For me, what it came down to, it goes back to what the objective. For me, ultimately, I knew what would make me the happiest is having a family, having children. and having that. For me, that's something that I've always wanted, and that's been my lifelong goal, is having that. So to do stand-up comedy, you have to travel across the country. You're doing dive bars. You're doing terrible joints. You're on the road for weeks and weeks at a time, and you're making college money. And so that's what it really came down to. For me, it's something that I love doing on the side, and it's a hobby and a passion, kind of like a pipe dream type thing. But I really do enjoy the interaction and being able to make people, the element of creating something that causes people to have joy is what is so addictive to it. Is you make it and then you say, I created that, and people were laughing at it. And it's awesome. It's attention. It's like I'm an attention junkie, just all I can get. Any other questions? Well, you guys, question back there.
What's your most embarrassing management experience?
That's Steve, the founder of Elevate. My most embarrassing management? Why don't you tell him? That's fair. That's fair. No, anytime you're leading a company, there's always going to be things. When you're a leader, you got to be able to have a sense of humor. It's the easiest way. Don't be offended by what people say. You got to have a thick skin. Be able to laugh at yourself, because you will make mistakes. Whether it's through a project or a campaign or anything like that, you'll make mistakes. And that happens. And if you can laugh at yourself, it works. With us, I wasn't able to show you some of the videos on here, but our culture is huge for us. So like this is some of the pranks and things that have happened. That's Steve there. We were actually trying to put on, I wasn't killing him, we were trying to put on a 5XL shirt around both of us. So that's his new office that they decorated for him while he was out of town. I can tell you he was really happy about that. And then this is just part of our team that we did a luncheon. We're up there at Thanksgiving Point. You guys are welcome to come by anytime. Culture for us is huge. I don't think this is going to play, but we really do. The culture of positive leadership, that's something that we really try to execute on and we're passionate about, because it can make a world of difference for all the people that are in your organization. So, any other questions? Just remember that positive leadership is not being a clown. It is really you don't have to be super energetic. It's just about that mentality. You get so much more production out of it. So, well, thank you guys very much. I'm Ricky.